Hello, welcome to Crafters TV and welcome to another of our Craft Your Stash shows. And today I'm going to be talking about one of those unsung heroes of our crafty stash, that being stencils. Now there's so much you can do with stencils, and throughout the course of this 1 hour show we're going to hopefully inspire you as to lots of different tips and techniques you can do when it comes to those fabulous stencils. Everything from inking, glitter paste, even dry embossing. There's tons you can do with stencils, and hopefully we'll be inspiring you throughout the course of that show. However, I am joined by somebody who loves stencils just as much as I do, and hopefully he's going to be bringing lots of inspiration to you guys at home. That is, of course, Craig. Now, Craig, what have you got in store for us today?
Do you know something? Unsung hero. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They really are, aren't they? The stencils, unsung heroes. That's a mouthful. Yeah, let's have a look. What we're going to be doing, Lily, within this hour, we're going to be having a look at stencils, just laying flat with colour. We're going to do a little bit of an ombre with 3 different shades of colour throughout a stencil. But then, of course, with stencils, you can still use them with your embossing mat with the Gemini. We touched upon that on a previous Craft Your Stash show, but we'll do a little bit of a revisit while we're using stencils. But stencils you can use with things such as your glitter paste as well. We'll do that, a little bit of home decor. But also, we do things such as layering stencils, where you layer colour on top of colour, using specific designs. We're going to be doing that as well. So we're going to touch upon kind of the main kind of components that you can do when it comes to stenciling.
Lots to come throughout this course of the hour, and whether you're a brand new crafter, perhaps you've never tried stencils before, this is the perfect show for you to get you inspired as to all those techniques that you can be bringing in with your stencils. Or maybe you're an experienced crafter who's been crafting for many, many years. Perhaps you're going to revisit some of those techniques that you've forgotten about, or actually learn something new as well to be adding to your crafty repertoire. It's going to be the perfect show for you as well. Now, lots coming up, but we're going to start off with one of the perhaps the most simple and easiest ways of using stencils, and that is using them alongside our inks. And that's exactly what we're going to be focusing at for this first demonstration. So we're going to go straight over to Craig and get straight into this first demo to show you how to blend using your stencils.
Absolutely. Now, you're going to be able to use all of our ink pads that we do. Now, what I would say, I would probably steer away from quick dry, although it is usable because we're going on a stencil, non-porous surface, so you can pull the colour over. It's just not blendable. Other than that, all the other ink pads that we do, you can absolutely use, get a lovely blend. Now, what I'm going to do, Lily, is I'm going to go in with one of our stencil sets, bold pattern. This is where we can then refer also back to the adhesive Craft Your Stash. To actually layer and anchor down a stencil, you can either use your repositionable tape or you can use your repositionable sprays. It's entirely up to you. The other thing I want you to have a think about is the actual stencil itself. Now, there's no right or wrong way. You can either cut your card exactly to size, which is no problem at all. However, what I prefer to do, Lily, is I prefer to have my card a little bit bigger, and then I will cut it afterwards. And the reason being for that, I don't tend to use a repositionable spray unless it's something really wet, i.e. a glitter paste that we'll cover just shortly. So for this one, what I do tend to do is I'll use my repositionable tape, my low tack tape. Now, if I go straight on like that, okay, holds down the stencil, but look at that, my card moves. Now, you can also use our new stencil platform. We'll show you that later on, but really simple, really basic. What I like to do, irrelevant of the size of the stencil you're using, let's make sure our card's a little bit bigger. These happen to be 5 by 5. So let's just say, Lily, 5.5 by 5.5. Doesn't matter because we're going to trim it afterwards. Now, what you will find, if you're going to be doing it this way, I now have that space, that frame, that my low tack tape, repositionable tape, will then not only tape to my stencil, but it's taping to my cardstock, so that's not moving.
Great
so
tip.
It's just nice to think of if you want to then have it flat. The good thing with that, it eliminates cutting afterwards, but you do have that worry, that concern that your card's going to move underneath. So either way, it's entirely up to yourself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my Oasis pigment ink pad. Now, I thought I'll do a little bit different. I'm a firm favourite of the water reactive, and I tend to use them quite a lot. So I thought this is a good way to show our pigment ink pads. And we've also in the past of Craft Your Stash, we've talked you through circular blending tools, square blending tools. You could be using your finger daubers, your egg blending tool, you've got your brushes, all of these that you can use. But let's go in with the good old trusted circle blending brush, and we're just going to dab into our ink pad. I like to also dab on the glass mat. It's not essential, but it's just what I like to do. And also, you don't need to worry about this outer edge. I am going to go over that edge, but at least I don't need to worry because I'm going to chop that off afterwards. I like to hold down and anchor with my hand or my fingers, or you could put another bit of tape down there if you want to. It's about that ease, it's about that comfort, and it's about giving you that confidence. So if you have that confidence in just using the tape, you can go for it. But then we have things such as repositionable sprays, as I mentioned a moment ago, that you've got that option too. And all that I'm doing is I'll start at a certain point, either left, either right, top, bottom, doesn't matter. We're just going to go along. And what I'm doing is I'm going in circular motions here. So we're just working our way round, and then we're just coming down to the bottom to where you finished off. What we'll do shortly is we'll show you the same stencil, but if you want to do like an ombre effect.
Ooh,
but
okay.
if you go in with just one block colour, looks really, really nice. Look at the detail of your stencil. You could come along with maybe little gems and pearls afterwards,
yes.
depending on what the design is. But if we keep it really simple with the actual layer of colour, this one is Oasis, it is the pigment, and we just give it another light little brush over with our blending tool. What this also gives us is that gives us that kind of lever arch, so I can lift up.
Ooh,
now, if I've
lovely.
missed anything, Lily, I can pop that down and then just go in and fill in any little bits. You've also got that option too, if you want to go a little bit heavier handed. So maybe at certain points you want them to be a little bit darker. You're just going to overlay. So you're just going to keep going over and over. Nothing specific about where I'm putting it just now. It's just to show you how the more that you go over, the deeper it can get. If we lift that one up once again, you've got more of those deeper tones within the corners, and then you can keep on going. We can pull that one away like so, and then of course we've got that outer edge. Now I've got that framed edge there, I've got that little bit of that inky edge, doesn't matter. All we need to do is come along and just chop down, following that outer edge. If you want to give it a matting layer, you can do that. If you want to leave a border, you can absolutely do that.
Wow.
But then you've got that nice clean edge, you've got that smooth flow, you've got a little bit of darkness, should you wish to do that. And then if you just come along and keep it really simple, Lily, with the die cut sentiment, complementary colour linen cards and Tura Pearl, and then even you've got things such as your die cut sentiments. So that's just one colour, blended all the way down, keeping it simple, and that is one form of using the stencil in the simple way.
Wow, how quick and easy was that? But it looks super, super impressive. You can make really stylish, really quick and easy cards with total and utter ease by using your stencils just with one ink pad. Now, those stencils that Craig was using there was actually part of our pearl powder collection, and we've got a nice selection of stencils within this range. You actually get 3 different stencil designs within each pack. So here you can see all those 3 different 5x5 inch square designs, this one being your bold patterns. Like Craig was saying there, I'm looking at that one, I'm thinking all those little junctions between those patterns will be great for your gems and your pearls. Perhaps you're going to be bringing in rainbows of colours for your stripes. We'll be having a little look at that sort of technique in just a few moments, but really, really sort of classic bold designs to be using in your crafty stash year in, year out. Then next up we move to something a little bit more feminine, a little bit more pretty with our contemporary florals. Beautiful designs here. It's going to look amazing with your ink like we've used here. With your pearl powders, of course, it's going to work a treat. Whether it's your glitter paste or whether you're actually using these as embossing folders, they're going to look stunning dry embossed onto your cardstocks as well. Then we move on to some really bold designs here with your magnificent mandalas. These really are the focal point, those sort of toppers for your cards. They look super, super striking on the board there, just with one colour of ink. But of course, think of bringing in all those different colourways. Think of bringing in your pearls and your gems to further embellish those. And it really is a card in just one pass of that stencil. And then finally, we have something perhaps a little bit more seasonal with this one. I'm going to take your crafting through to Christmas, through those fall and Thanksgiving makes, and Halloween as well with your seasonal trio. 3 designs there. You get all of those beautiful detailed designs throughout each of those 5x5 inch stencils. They are absolutely gorgeous, and the detailed is truly incredible. Whether you're inking, whether you're using all those different lovely mediums like your sprays, your glitter paste, they're going to look absolutely outstanding. So those are your pearl powders, different stencils that we've got within the range. Lots of different designs to get crafting with. We've already seen how you can actually ink through a stencil using one colour, but we're going to take it one step further. We're going to start to do a little bit of an ombre using different colours of ink.
We really are. Now, this is where our family of Harmony, water reactive, pigment, all come in hand, because what you've got within each one is you've got one colour family, but then you've got the 3 tones. Now, what I mean by that is a moment ago, you'll have seen me use Oasis. Now, when it comes to kind of the teal tones with our ink pad range, Oasis is the light tone. We've got Parakeet, which is your mid-tone, and then we've got Lagoon, which is your deeper tone here. So it's the one colour family, but your 3 different shades there. Now, what I'm away to do, you can absolutely mix and match colours. You don't have to have them within the 3 shades, but I just thought, let's do that. While we use the Oasis, let's do an ombre with the remaining 2 colours. What I'm also doing is I'm going to use the remaining part of that piece of cardstock I showed you before, and so you can see the contrast between going in flat and then doing that 3-tone ombre effect. We're going to use the same stencil. Okay. Lily was showing you were showing them there a minute ago, Lily. It was from that bold patterns that you showed you. That's the one we're using. You do also get the stripes, and then you've got your circles. So we're going to go in. I'm going to do exactly the same as I done before. I'm going to take my low tack tape, and I'm just going to create my hinge at the top. Now, you don't have to keep it only at the top. If you want to then add that little bit more secureness, you can put a little bit at the bottom. What that's going to do is that's really going to jar it to your cardstock, and it's going to stop it moving while you're then turning and twisting around. But I'm going to reiterate again, Lily, you can absolutely use your purple tin repositionable spray. That'll hold it down completely, not move until it's ready to come off, but we'll use that later on within this show. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go in with 3 of my blending tools here. So I've got 1 for each. Now, the great thing that you can do with your 3 tones from the one colour family, although I'm using 1 each, Lily, or it could just be 1 blending tool and the 3 separate heads. You don't have to have the 3. And actually, I'm going to show you that. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Lily, you've only got 1, but you've got a few of the actual blending foam heads. Then that's all that you need. However, because it's one colour family, you could, Lily, get away with just using 1 because it's from that same family. So if you're going to use the dark, you can take that excess off afterwards and then go to the light, and you're not going to get, of course, that contamination. So you've got different options there, but if you do have your 3 separate tools, great. If not, even if you've got your 3 kind of replacement heads, you can do that. And I know on our website we do them in packs of 10, so you can check them out. But what we're going to do here, in some ways, it's not actually any different what I'd done before. The only difference is, Lily, is instead of going all the way down my stencil, I'm going to block it off into kind of like 3 sections. So I'm going to do Oasis, I'm going to do Parakeet, and then I'm going to do Lagoon. So I'm going to do them kind of in thirds here. So move them to the side for now. Now, you will see as we go on with all of our inks, if you're using them and handling them the way I am, we get messy hands. I'm sorry, but you're not a crafter unless you get inky hands.
Absolutely correct.
But they are water-based, so they're just going to wash off, no problem, in soapy water. And then we're doing exactly as I done beforehand, Lily. We're just going to go along the top here, circular motions, adding in that Oasis, which is the lighter tone. So work that in, back and forwards. We can always go back, we can always add more. And then without going too far, Lily, and complicating it even more for anyone that's beginners, because this ink pad, this is, it stays sticky. Now, what I mean by that, I don't mean it's sticky as in a tacky glue. It stays open, what means you could pour your embossing powders over the top afterwards. That will then stick to the ink, and then you can melt it with your heat gun. So there's lots of creative ways that you can, well, get creative when it comes to stencils, inks and powders. But at this point, I've done the light tone. I've only got my one blending tool. Take that off. We can go into the next one here. And the next colour, the next shade, the mid-tone is going to be the parakeet. And then we're doing exactly the same. Nothing different. The only difference now is we're going to go into that 2/3 section there. And I'm kind of keeping it kind of symmetrical in the depths of each section.
Yes.
But maybe you want that light tone to be maybe just a little smidge at the top, and then it's going to be fuller with the actual parakeet, and then maybe a little bit with the lagoon. You can have that play as to how much you're using. What we're doing is we're going to move that out the way, but for now, I'm going to go back into the oasis because we've got a little bit of a harsher line going on there. So I'm going to go back in with the oasis, and then I'm just going to cross over and blend them both together.
Oh, yeah.
So blend them in, and because we've got our stencil, which is a non-porous surface, Lily, that will enable you to blend the ink off the stencil and then get that really nice ombre effect. And this is where I could start to bring in and mention the quick dries. Quick dries are not good for blending or anything like that. However, because your stencil is a non-porous surface, you can get your quick dry ink on the stencil and pull it onto your card using your blending brush. So it's not the ideal ink pad medium, but if you happen to have a few of them lying about, you've got nothing else, you could then have a play. You're just not going to get a great blended ombre effect. But give it a try. It's what crafting's all about.
Absolutely.
It's all about trying.
Tell you what it reminds me a little bit of, Craig. It reminds me a bit of your tri-blends. You know the way you've got
Exactly.
your light, medium, your dark, and the way you put one colour down and you go back to your lighter to blend it out. So if you're familiar with your alcohol pens, particularly your tri-blends, I think you'll find this quite an easy transition from going to the pens to the ink pads. Do
you know something? You're absolutely spot on that one. You really, really are. That's the same way that you're thinking about it. Or if you're used to doing this and then you move to your tri-blends, you're just going to use your tri-blends in the same way that you're doing this technique. So yeah, it's a great way to think about it. Gone in there with the lagoon, which is that deeper tone. And then what I'm doing is I've still got that little bit of a harsher line. I'm not going to add any more ink of the parakeet because we've got excess ink on that stencil. So what we're doing is we're just going to then cross over and we're just going to blend the excess of the lagoon and blend the excess of the parakeet that's on my stencil. Don't worry about the outer edge. Obviously, I talked you through before how if you want to cut your card to the exact size, you can. For me, I prefer to keep my card bigger and chop afterwards. And then all that we need to then do is we just need to then come along and then we're just going to peel that base off of the low tack tape first. So let's go into here. So we're just going to grab that underneath there. I'm just going to then carefully pull that off. And then because we're kind of giving ourselves that little bit of the hinge at the top, we then just lift that one up. And then as you then start to do that reveal.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
Wow.
Then we've got that 3-tone blend. We can then take our guillotine, we could take our paper trimmer. Be careful at the moment because this is where we say it's still kind of open. The medium is open, it's still wet, so you could still actually brush this with your fingers and give it a little bit of a, you know, a smudged effect. So do be careful. But if you want to, you can either cut right to the edge as I showed you within the first one, or what you can do is you can then give yourself an outer matte and layer edge like so. If I turn that around, we've now got our 3-tone ombre blend. If I bring in my original one where we just used 1 tone. So 1 tone can enable you to create that we've seen. An ombre effect can enable you to create that. So
wow.
Same layout, same look. The only difference is the way that we've applied the ink into the background. And that is the sort of thing that you can be doing with your stencils and your pigment ink pads.
Wow, how impressive does that look? That looks absolutely incredible. Just using 3 different colours of ink to get that ombre effect. You can be doing that with any stencil you've got in your crafty stash. Now, some of the stencils that Craig's been using here are the fantastic ones that actually launched with our pearl powders. And this is the exact set that he's just used for those last 2 demonstrations, our bold patterns. I'm going to show you a couple of samples using these stencils in just a few moments. But something I always like to point out with our packaging is the fact that we have a little bit of inspiration on the front there. So if you are a brand new crafter and you want to copy exactly what you see there on the packaging, then that's going to be a great point for you to start with your crafting with these fantastic stencils. So just a little bit of inspiration on the packaging. But if I bring in a few of our finished samples, these have actually been done using our pearl powders. So those beautiful stencils, but using with those pearl powders, you can see you get that lovely sort of reflection, that lovely shimmer and that pearlescent sheen by using those incredible pearl powders. It looks really, really impressive to use that onto some of your white cardstock. Little sentiment on there, a few mats and layers, and it's a beautiful card, but in little to no time whatsoever. Then if we bring in a different card here, but using our pearl powders onto some of our coloured cardstock gives you a completely different look and feel, but using those stencils once again, another beautiful simple card, but it looks stunning by using those stencils. How about using your stencils with your pearl powders onto vellum? How impressive does that look? And it just gives you something a little bit different. I know we covered our vellum in another of our crafty stashes that's available for you guys to check out and learn all about the benefits of our fabulous vellum. How about using those stencils though with some of your glitter paste? How impressive does that look? So a pearl powder background onto there, some glitter paste over the top, and it gives you that amazing topper for your cards. Just once again a sentiment, mats and layers, and you are good to go with stunning and very effective card making. And then finally, this one is a real showstopper. Look at that. It's absolutely incredible. All that pearlescent sheen to those fantastic stencils there. So that's going through with one of your translucent, your clear sticky ink pads, and then layering over the top using your pearl powders, and then in the background using those stamps to actually go in with your pearl powders once again to give you that beautiful shimmer and that pearlescent sheen. It gives you a real show-stopping make, but it's all about the stencils. The stencils is what it's all about when it comes to these cards. It's giving you that incredible finished result, but with little to no effort whatsoever, and gives you an incredible look to your cards. It could be home decor, it could be gift boxes, it could be scrapbooking. However you choose to use your stencils, you've got lots of different options. Now that's sort of one stencil on its own, one simpler design, but how about bringing in lots of different multiple stencils and starting to layer in them? And that's what we're going to look at next, is our fantastic layering stencils.
We absolutely are. Now this is when you're probably wanting to have a look and invest in our layering and stamping platform. It's not going to be necessarily as such, and I'll talk you through that, but this is absolutely going to be helping you when it comes to our layering stencils. Now the whole idea, concept, I know Lily will also show you afterwards, but I can show you how you can absolutely use these and get the use out of them. And that is our layering stencils, where, for instance, I'm going to be using the rose. There's 3 sets Lily will show you just later, but this is the rose. Now what these actually consist of is 5 separate stencils. Now these are all individually numbered. Now as they start with, they look a little bit strange. You know, you've got 1, you've then got 2, you have then got 3, you have then got 4, and then you've got 5. Each of those with the numbers at the top, and these little holes will serve their purpose. So within these ranges, if you're getting a hold of them, what they also come with is the coordinated ink pads. Now you can then be using the coordinated ink pads that come with them, or there's nothing stopping you, Lily, from using all your other ink pads. Just choose all your own tones of reds. It might want to be a yellow rose. It might want to be a pink rose. It's entirely up to yourself. But what I'm going to do is I am going to use the colours that come with these. So we're going to then take in our layering and stamping platform. Now this already has a tack mat, which is great. What you're also going to do is you're going to use the strip that comes with them here. And then you can pop that anywhere. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter if it's at an angle, because what's going to happen is that's going to tack to that tack mat there. And then I'm just going to go in with my cardstock, and I'm just going to then butt that up the top here. The tack mat will also cling with the cardstock, and then this is when you can take what's going to be the first one, and this is where those 2 holes at the top come into play. All that we're going to do is we're just going to then latch them on, and then I can start with my first layer. Now if you don't have this, Lily, don't worry. What you can always do, if you want to, take your cardstock, and to make it really easy, just go to the top left-hand corner each time. So first one, top left-hand corner. Second one, do the same, top left-hand corner. And that means that each layer are going to overlap perfectly because you're in that right position. But if you do have the layering stamping platform, this is where the little strip and these little holes come into play. So we're going to then just hook that on into place, nothing's moving whatsoever. And then we're going to go in with the red ink pads that come included with this one here. And then you've got your 5 shades. Now these are all new colours when it comes to our ink pad range, and these are also our quick dry, these forms. So this is where you then choose, do you want to use your blending tools, your brushes, or you might want to use the finger daubers. And if that's the case, I've got one for each, or because it's all reds, if you just want to use the one, then you can absolutely do that. Now what I would do at home, Lily, is I spend a lot of time with the first layer and getting it really nice and smooth. But what I'm going to not do is that. And what I mean by that is I am quite quickly just going to get that colour on into place. Now at home, what I was referring to is I would spend a good amount of time making sure that that layer is nice and it's smooth and it's got a well covered and coated base, and I would do that right across. But for the sake of showing you how to use the stencil, I'm going to go a little bit quicker. But what I'll also show you by the end, you've got more of a rustic look. So you can either go with a nice smooth look, you can either go with a rustic look. It's entirely up to yourself. But the red that I am using is the lightest of them all. You do have that chart on the front of the box that gives you that colour guide. So we're just going to go in there with the first one, making it nice and smooth if you want to, or doing what I'm doing, and that's just quickly going along into place, getting that layer down, adding that in, just dabbing it on, brushing it on. And at first within that one, you think, well, it looks a little bit incomplete, which it is. But then this is where step 2, step 3, etc. come into play. So simply going to leave it like that. So put my lid on. What we're going to do is we're going to take that off. We're going to keep card where it is. Everything stays where it is. And then we're going to go in with number 2. So lock that into place. And then we're going to take the next red that's the next shade. So we can then go in, and then we're doing exactly what I done a minute ago. And then we're just going to add that colour over the top. And this time what we've got a smaller area, and we've also got some detailed stencil, which is going to block our application of the ink. So this is where also at this point looks a little bit patchy, looks a little bit strange, but it's one of those where you trust the process. You can't do anything wrong. It looks a mess. It doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or whether you're advanced, and if you've been crafting for 50 years, it's still going to look the same, which is a comfort. That is a comfort to know that as a beginner, you're going to have the same look as someone that's advanced, and that is because it's the process of the layering stencil. So let's just keep inking up each individual layer. You would, if you want to, as I would do at home, really go to town and add each layer nice and smooth with colour, but it still gives you a look, of course, of that rustic feel.
Just gives a bit more texture, doesn't it? At the end of the day, like if a rose had been left out in the rain, it would be a little bit more crinkly, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
It just gives you that realistic texture.
But you're not missing the detail. You can start to see where we're going. We've still got that base coming through. The base colour is still coming through. And then you're going to go into number 3. Now, number 3 has the next layer plus some of the leaves as well.
Oh, okay.
So focus on the rose to start with. We're going to go in with the 3rd shade, and then we're going to do what we've been doing, and that is ink up, dabbing through. If you're using your blending tools, blend that through, or you can, if you want to, use maybe one of the other blending mediums. That's up to yourself. And then we're just going to then work that into place. We're going to then just twist and turn with the finger dauber. This is where it's giving you the 3rd layer, which will then visually become apparent once we lift it. So I'm doing the rose, and then what we can do is we can then stop. And I'm just being careful that I don't go over into the leaf. Don't worry if you do, it's not the end of the world, but you can also mask it off if you want with the low tack tape. And then this is where the actual stencil, the grid, works in as well. And what I mean by that is if I take that off, you can start to see definition of the rose. But I can still put it back. I could add more colour if I want, or I can go in with my greens. Now these are part with the Laird and Stencils, although they are available separate, so you can get these to work for the greens of the leaves. That being said, nothing's stopping you from using all of your other ink pads if you want to. So you don't have to use what comes with them. So I'm not going to. Let's show you how you can do a bit of both.
Okay.
So with the leaves, let's go in with the lightest one. And even though we're on a new part of the floral, which is the leaves, still stays the same. We're going in with that base to start with, which just happens to be grasshopper. Or this one is spring meadow. Next one that we do will be the grasshopper. So ink that one through. And the more we do this, deeper it gets, but then the more stencils we use, the smaller the image becomes.
Okay.
So I'm happy with that, more than enough, and we can see we're getting that image come to life. We're going to go in with the fourth one. I know it's the fourth one because it tells me number 4.
Perfect.
We're going to go into the 4th shade of our red ink pad. We're going to ink that up. This is when you really start to see it come to life because you've got that fine detail within the rose. So we're just going to then ink through. I like to twist and turn with the finger daubers. Notice as well, with finger daubers, we did talk you through previous shows about the blending tools. Finger daubers to go on your finger. For me, a little bit too tight, so you can just hold them as normal. Or what they're also good for, if you want to, another little tip for you, the end of our water spritz. If you need that little bit of the extended handle, if you take our Spectrum Noir water spritz tool, it fits neatly and snugly on the end, and it gives you that elongated arm. So we can then just finish off within that small detail. I'm not taking it off just yet because what I'm going to do is the second layer of my leaf. So let's go in the grasshopper, and then I'm going to do the same just to show you. Pop that on. We're going to then just ink through here, and the detail within the leaf is getting a little bit less. So therefore, once we remove this, you're going to see the veins starting to pop through within the leaves. And then we're going to then finish off with that one here. And notice I'm doing this so quick.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can take time, but if you do it quick, you're still going to get a really nice effect. So take that one off.
Oh, wow.
And then we've got one last layer. So we're going to slot that on like so, Lily. Pop that in. Last shade of the red. Let's go in with our ink pad. And then this is just that fine finishing detail. So we're just going to push that red through. That's going to overlay. That's going to give you that roundness, that depth. And then afterwards, even if you come along with things such as your dewdrops and all that to make it look as though it's maybe been raining, maybe it's a little bit wet or damp, you can do that. And then I'm going to go in with the last of the green, which is the deep one. And this is the pine tree. And then we're just going to then pop that through here. We're just going to then work that. Now, with the last layer, Lily, what you could do, if you've got your kind of iridescent glitter pastes, glitter glues, why not start to use them through that top layer to add that extra bit of sparkle. But that's it. That's all that I'm going to do. Intensify it with more shades.
Wow,
but look
at that.
And notice how I said, don't worry about the beginning being patchy if you don't have time, or maybe you don't have the pressure to really get a nice smooth lay down. What you're still going to get is a beautiful rounded 3D effect that's with the inks that come with it, but you can then also use your own inks that you've got at home as well.
Shall I tell you what it reminds me of a little bit, Craig? The fact that you've done it a little bit more texture reminds me a bit of more like watercolour.
Yeah,
being
actually,
painted with watercolour. Looks absolutely stunning. I want to share with you all of the amazing designs of floral layering stencils that we have within the range. Starting off, of course, with the one that Craig's just shown us there in that demonstration, which is, of course, our fantastic rose. Now, as part of each and every single one of these 3 different sets, you're getting 5 different stencils. So you can see, first up, that's layer 1, and then we bring in layer 2. Don't forget, you're getting all all of these different ink pad colours to work alongside that rose. Bring in stencil number 3, really starts to come together. Stencil number 4, and then that final finishing touch is bringing in stencil number 5 to give you that real definition, that real shade and depth to your rose. And you are getting that stamp included as well. That could be the front of a card, good to go. It looks absolutely incredibly striking. It is just gorgeous by using that rose design. And then we bring in our anemone. Never easy to say, but it is easy to use because it's absolutely gorgeous once again in the same system. Stencil number 1, move on to stencil number 2, stencil number 3, stencil number 4, and then that crowning glory is of course stencil number 5. Working alongside that stamp there is giving you that really impressive, really professional looking. It's almost like it's been printed, but you're actually creating this using your stencils and your ink pads with total and utter ease. And then finally within the collection we've got our peony, gorgeous, really big sort of blousy textured looking flower that we've got with this one. Stencil number 1, bring in stencil number 2, move through to the 3rd, the 4th, and then finally we have stencil number 5 to give you all that gorgeous detail using alongside your stamp there. And there's nothing to stop you using the ink pad colours that you've got within your peony, perhaps with any of the other flowers. It could be a pink rose, it could be a pink anemone. It's totally up to you. You've got complete creative license when you're creating your own designs. But just a few cards here just to give you a little bit more inspiration as to what you can create. Don't just think about using it as one full panel, perhaps bring it into 3 separate pieces to create that beautiful triptych design. Looks really impressive on the front of the card, just like that. How about your concept cards? So as well, using that gorgeous peony onto one of your stepper cards. Super easy to create, but all the hard work has been done by that amazing stencil. Bringing in, once again, cutting in that panel into 4 quadrants to give you a slightly different look and feel. I could go on and on and on with these samples. They're all absolutely gorgeous, but all super easy to create thanks to those incredible stencils and that amazing system of having the colours matched to each and every single one of those different stencils to give you that realistic look and feel with real depth and dimension, but it is completely flat when you've layered all of your different colours of ink together. They are amazing stencils, an amazing system, and it's lots that you can get playing with. Layering stencils are just absolutely amazing. But back to another technique when it comes to our stencils, and next up, I absolutely love this one. It's going to bring a little bit of spark, a little bit of shine to your crafting. It is, of course, using your amazing glitter paste alongside your stencils.
Yeah, let's bring in a Hessian bag here that we've got. You can get these so inexpensively online here. You can get pack 5, pack of 10. I'm sure you can get them individually as well. So for anyone that wants to know, it just happens to be 5 by 7.5.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to go in with one of our Christmas poinsettia stencils. You can, if you want, do what I'm going to do with all your other stencils as well. None of them are made redundant, so to speak, when it comes to glitter paste. We're going to be able to use them all. This happens to be Ocean Song. What I've got is I've got a little spatula here, and I've also got my repositionable spray. Highly recommend this for anything like it's a Hessian, but also for refer back to what I was saying beforehand. With stencils, only time I tend to use a repositionable spray is if I'm using something wet, as in glitter paste, something like that. Ink pads, I don't tend to, but of course you could do. If you're going to do this on a Hessian bag, what to do is take a scrap bit of cardstock and just pop that in. Because it's wet, it's glue, it's liquid, it can seep through to the back. One thing, yes, it can seep through, but because it's a glue Lily, it can stick. If that seeps through, that will then dry and you'll not get your goodies in the little Hessian bag. So you're just kind of blocking the ability of sticking to the back here. So let's go in with our chosen stencil here. What I would say when you're using any of our stencils, certainly with glitter paste, make sure you wash it straight away, or you've got a little tub or that with water so that you can clean it straight away. I've got a couple of wipes at the side of me ready so that I can then wash them afterwards, because I do mean it. The quality of ours that you'll see on our website are exceptional, but it does mean that they are permanent. If you get them on your clothes or a surface, it's going to be very hard to get them off. That also stands for the medium of the stencils. That's why you want to wash them straight away. So if I then show you now within my spatula here, we're going to then see, look at that beautiful colour.
Gorgeous.
How fab.
Craft is purple, that.
Yeah. Once again, it is Ocean Song, that one that anyone wants to know. So we're going to set that to the side for a second. I'm going to take my stencil, Lily, and then I'm going to go in just with a little bit of scrap card. And I'm just going to stand to the back here just for a second. We're going to take our spray. Now, we did step you through, and I'll show you this face on here. We did step you through within the adhesive Craft Your Stash show, but let's just do a little recap. Just going to go a couple of inches away, and then we're just short, sharp bursts. Just a few, that's it.
Okay.
Not much, just a little bit. And then if you're going to use this stencil a few times, you only need to use that repositionable spray once every so often. That will tack a good number of times before you have to reapply more of that repositionable spray. I like to give that a little bit of a waft just to set for a moment or two. And then once I am ready, that then means we can go into place. Now, because it's repositionable, don't worry about getting it in the wrong place. If you've got it at an angle, just lift it off. Lift it off. But the whole purpose of the repositionable is once you pop it onto your medium, it's the Hessian bag that's moving, not the actual stencil. That's not going anywhere. I'm going to give it a nice press just round the edges as well, and then we can go in with our glitter glues. Let's go in with the glitter paste here, and then I'm just going to give that a really nice little mix. What can sometimes happen in warehouses or transit, Lily, it can start to separate.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the glitter and the glue separating. If that happens, what can happen is it looks like a creamier consistency at the bottom with a purple consistency at the top.
Okay.
That's just the glue and the glitter separating. So all that you want to do is give it a really good mix with the spatula or maybe one of our mixing tools or mixing spoon, something like that. But what we can then do is when we can go in, and then we're just going to take a little bit to start with because you can always add. And if you're a little bit scared about getting on the outer edge, if you want to mask it with things such as your low tack tape, you can absolutely do that. But because I only have it to the tip of my spatula, I'm quite comfortable and confident in knowing I'm not going to get it where I don't want it. So I'm just going to do little and often. I mean, already we can see that little bit that I used is still going.
It's gone a long way, hasn't it?
It's going a long way. What I am going to do is I'm going to do exactly what I said, but along the bottom here. I'm just going to block that one off. And then let's just carry on. So I'm just going to then take that excess off, apply it back on. And then I don't want an overly thick consistency, but on the other hand, I don't want to see the Hessian bag through the glitter either. I want to have that kind of nice in between. So have a play. What to also do, where you can, try and limit the movement. So don't spend like 10 minutes getting in, getting out. It really is quite the case of get it on, get it to a happy Laird consistency that you're happy with, and then leave it. Happy with that. The excess that's there, it's not going to go to waste. What I can then do is just going to hold it and anchor it, pull it up,
Look
and
at
then
that.
look at that. No lines underneath, the glitter's not coming underneath the line of the stencil, no glue, there's no seepage, there's no nothing. I would leave that in until it's dried, and then once it's dried, you can pull that out. Just to say here, this doesn't go to waste. Let's take, we've got a bit of scrap card that I can use afterwards. None of that needs to go to waste. What we're just going to do, take as much off as we can, and then any excess, what we're doing, we're just going to then scrape that off. You can fill in, so this could be an additional topper later on. So we can go in here, take any of that excess off, or if you're like Craig, I'm not wanting another topper, I just don't want to waste that glitter, just scrape it all off and pop it back into the tub. Close it, like so. Because it's the repositionable, we're just going to go in, and then we're just going to prise that off. Now look at that.
2 for 1, love it.
2 for 1 there. We're going to trim obviously afterwards. Make sure, as I said, wash it straight away, or I'm just going to put it through wipes here so it doesn't dry out. So that's what we'd done a moment ago in front of your eyes, and that is it. Once it's dry, it's flexible, it's usable, it's giftable, and that's how you can use your stencil with the glitter glue. And that's fab. Just make sure that you're cleaning your tools as well.
Absolutely amazing. So your stencils are not just for your card making, not just for your paper crafts, but for your home decor, your gift giving, lots of different options when it comes to your fantastic stencils. They can go onto a myriad of surfaces, especially if you're using something like your glitter paste. They're an incredible medium to work with, and they can be used with any of your stencils. Like Craig was saying earlier, you could even be bringing in something like a clear iridescent glitter paste on the top of your layering stencils, as well as that top layer to give it a really lovely shimmer and shine to finish it off perfectly. Now that's using them onto a Hessian bag, but of course there's lots of different materials that we can be using our fantastic stencils onto as well. How about home decor? How about popping some of your stencils onto a candle? Craig, I can't wait to see this one.
So this is actually one that I've just kind of snuck in there, Lily. So I've hunted for a candle that we've already got. So I'm not going to use this stencil in this colour, but this one is a partly done floral one. So that's a wax candle. We're going to use the same glitter paste I had a moment ago, but we're going to use a lovely little snowflake.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take our snowflake. So this is from the Graceful Snowflakes, and it's the little individual topper. And it really means, Lily, no matter what surface you're putting it onto, nothing really changes in the fact that we're doing exactly what I've done before. So let's just go back at a little bit of a distance for a second, and then what we're going to then do is we're just going to then give that a little bit of a spritz, like so. Still the repositionable. Let's pop that there. Let's lift that one over the top, and then I'm just going to give that just a light waft for a second or two. And then what we can do is, because the stencil's flexible, the repositionable spray is flexible, I'm just going to hold it in my hand. Now you can then, you know, hug that. You can have something holding that in place if you want both hands free. If not, then all that we're going to do is we're just going to then wrap that around. And I'm still doing what I'd done previously. Let's give that a nice press. And then let's then just take our glitter once again, and then we're doing exactly as we've done. So I'm going to start at the sides. We're just going to then work our way over the top. Candles I tend to do a little bit more little and often.
Okay.
That's the way that I tend to do it, because nothing is wasted, because all of that excess can go back in. Now I'm taking that excess to finish off like so into the bottom here. At this point, I wouldn't scrape the excess off now to put in. What I would do is I would then release that one.
Wow, look
like
at that.
And then now what I'll do, I'll set that to the side, and then I could just take any of that excess off. Even the excess that's gone through onto my glass mat, let's scrape that off, pop that on, make sure we give that a really good clean, and until I can come along and wash that, we're just going to make sure that stays damp so it doesn't dry. So whether it is your candles or whether it's going to be things such as your bags, you can absolutely do that you can see here as well.
Wow, incredible. Showing that your stencils are not just about your paper crafts, they are truly multi-surface tools to have in your crafty stash. Perhaps you're renovating a piece of home decor, doing a little bit of upcycling. It could be onto a lovely mirror, it could be onto the front of perhaps a chest of drawers, a wardrobe, anything at all pretty much you can pop these fantastic glitter pastes onto. And the fact that your stencils are flexible as well, like you've just seen in that demonstration, you can bend them and mould them around curves. It could be any shape, any size you so choose. And don't forget as well, you could be multiple layering that stencil. You could have tons and tons of snowflakes, a whole flurry of snowflakes if you so choose, using your fantastic stencils. And the thing is, they're reusable, so you can use them time and time again for lots of different applications in your crafting, in your home decor, and so much more besides. Now, we've only got about 10 minutes left on the show, and we really want to squeeze this final technique in, because personally, I have to say it's one of my absolute favourites. It's dry embossing using your stencils, which means each and every single one of your stencils you've got in your crafty stash, you can effectively turn into an embossing folder, which is a fabulous technique. It's like making tools from tools, which is always incredible. So Craig, over to you to show us dry embossing using our stencils.
Right, let's do this. So I'm going to go all the way back to the bold pattern stencils, because I love the dotty one that you get with this. Now what I'm going to show you right here, you can do with absolutely any stencils, no problem at all. But what you will need is an electric cutting machine that's got an embossing mat. So we've got our base cutting plate, we've got our embossing mat, we've got our frosted shim, and we've also got our top plate as well. We're going to take our stencil, and then what we're doing is we're going to take our cardstock. So we're just going to overlay. So what we're going to do is take the base here. So if I take the base, I'm going to go in with my stencil as well. So we're just going to go stencil, card over the top. We're going to sit that over, and then we're going to go in with our embossing mat. So again, that's base, then stencil, then card, and then we do our embossing mat. And this is the technique, Lily, why I always like to keep one of my cutting plates uncut. I like to keep it smooth and clear. It's not necessary, but it's just what I like. Then going to go in with the frosted shim. Then we're going to go in with the top plate. We're going to feed this through. Now, what you will see is you will see your embossing mat start to stretch out. Don't worry and don't panic. It's going to go back to its size. So it's just about, of course, that medium within the embossing mat serves a purpose to absolutely stretch and emboss. And then we can then take each individual layer off, take that one off. We've already seen that deboss. Yeah. Look at that. But if we lift that off, now that gives us the impression of the stencil. So whatever that stencil is, whatever that design is, by going in and embossing. So just one little recap, Lily. I'm not going to do it again, but I'll just show you the layers again. You're going to go in. Now this could be your Gemini Junior, but this is going to be your base plate. You're then going to take your stencil, your card over the top there. You're then going to go in with your embossing mat. You're then going to go in with that frosted shim. Then you're going to go in with the top plate. And do you know what? Actually, seeing as I've already layered them on, let's just do that just so that we can show you like so how it's then going to work. And my electricity's just gone off right now. Isn't it all good? There we go. Is it working? No, no, it's not.
Oh, no.
So we're going to pretend that that's gone all the way through.
We saw it the first time
and
anyway.
then,
We don't need
like
to see it
magic,
twice.
this is what you're going to be left with here. So I've shown you that a moment ago. Let me tilt that so you can, there you go. So you can imagine all your different design stencils, Lily, and leave the stencil in place, ink over the top if you want to, spritz over the top if you want to, so you can still do creative ways. What I would say is if you want to use your nesting dies to cut it out, cut the die out first within the card, then emboss it. If you go and die cut that, what you're going to do is you're going to flatten a lot of that detail. So cut the die cut first, then emboss, and then that's the look you're going to get.
Brilliant. Wow, what a fantastic technique. So every single one of your stencils can now be in an embossing folder. Let's just have a little look at some of those amazing stencils that Craig's been working with throughout the course of this show. Don't just think about these as coloured designs, so think about every single one of these used as an embossing folder. So dry embossing, using that technique that Craig's just shown us. That could be onto your white card, it could be your coloured card, your craft card, any card whatsoever. And you can be embossing all of these designs. Like Craig says, ink and emboss is going to give even more depth of colour, even more dimension to your designs. That one perhaps you're going to be embossing onto some of your white cardstock, just a few pearls in the middle, and it will make an incredible Valentine's or anniversary. It could be a wedding card. Super stylish by using all of these as embossing folders, as well as using the coloured designs by using your inks, your it could be your pearl powders, it could be your fantastic shimmer sprays as well. Lots of different mediums you could be popping through these, as well as using all of those fantastic sort of stencil designs to create your own embossing folder. I think that one at the top will look amazing, embossed onto some of your black card, a little bit of silver gilding marks. It would look incredible and totally spooktacular. Amazing techniques you can do with all of your stencils. And my goodness me, we have packed a ton into this hour. I'm hoping you guys at home are feeling totally inspired as well. We've had everything right from basics, so we've had inks, glitter paste, we've had stenciling using your fantastic ombre effects as well. We've had tons. Well, let's go over to Craig for a little recap of exactly what we featured throughout the course of this show.
Yeah, because even then, Lily, it's just a snippet as to what you could be doing with the stencils. I mean, we've inked through, all the way through, one colour when it comes to your water-based ink pad. But then what about bringing in the 3 additional colours to create that ombre effect? This is the stencil I said, both Lily said as well, I'd be inclined to go in with my gems, my pearls, your glitter glues that you've got, pop the detail in there. But if you go on flat with one colour, that's the sort of things that you can do. If you go in with that ombre effect, that's the sort of things that you can do as well. So that's using your stencils on their own, but then we do have ranges such as layering stencils. So this is where you can use the stencil to layer upon layer upon layer. So gone in with 5 tones of the red 3 of the green, really start to pull them together here, using the actual inks that come with them, or you can use all of your own inks, no problem whatsoever. Add little detail if you want to. Then we've moved into the stencils, showing you the candle, but also this one really makes me smile. I just think, wow, every time you see it on a Hessian bag, how well that looks. Of course, once it's dry, you can take that one out. If I take this one, because I really like to show the fact of, even though you've gone through your stencils, how flexible that it is afterwards, certainly when it comes to our range of our glitter paste. That's the Hessian bag. We've done the candle as well. And then we've done the embossing. So you can use your stencils to emboss with. And then you don't just have to use the emboss side, you could use the deboss side if you want to. Can you imagine that? Coloured matte and layer Lily, sentiment, that's it. That's all that you need to do.
Absolutely.
So yeah, basic inking, ombre inking, glitter pasting, layering, embossing with the stencils, glitter paste with candle. There's so many things that you can do, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Absolutely, Craig's right. That really is just a little soups on of some of the sorts of things you can be doing when you get your fantastic stencils working for you in your crafty stash. Now, just a few more samples to inspire you guys at home. I'm sure you're already totally inspired by watching Craig's demos throughout the course of this hour, hopefully inspiring you to pick up those stencils perhaps you've forgotten about in your crafty stash, or maybe you've treated yourself to some new stencils like our beautiful layering stencils. Now, don't these look incredibly impressive? Just onto that triptych design there, onto a simple matte and layered card, it looks super impressive, but all that hard work is being done by those incredible layering stencils. Use them as toppers, cut them out as well to layer up your own background, simple sentiment in the middle, and don't forget your sentiment stamps are included as well. How cool does that look? But stencils are just such a versatile thing to have in your crafty stash. Going back to the start of the show, we were talking about them being unsung heroes, and I hope throughout the course of this show we've really shown you quite how versatile they are, quite how many different techniques you can do with a stencil. Just a humble piece of plastic can give you beautiful designs like we can see here. It can give you embossed designs, it can give you ink designs, you can use them on home decor like Craig has shown so beautifully, and it's going to take your crafting the whole year through. Whether you're crafting for spring, whether you're crafting for summer, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Halloween, your stencils are going to take your crafting throughout the seasons, throughout the years. Whether you are brand new to crafting and it's one of the first techniques you ever try, it's a great one to start with, let me tell you that for nothing. But it's also going to take your crafting throughout the years as well. Whether you're more experienced and want to be crafting with those more advanced techniques, stenciling is going to do that for you as well. Now, Craig, thank you so much. I feel totally inspired. It's been fabulous, and I hope you guys at home are feeling just as inspired. Make sure you do continue to tune in for all of our Craft Your Stash shows. I know a lot of them do sort of like mix and match with each other, so perhaps you're going to take things you've learned in this particular Craft Your Stash into different Craft Your Stash shows as well, to give you lots of different crafty ideas to get playing with. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you'll join us next time for another of our Craft Your Stash shows. Until then, bye-bye.